My interest in plant science kind of was an offshoot of an interest in political science, because I was really interested in some of the issues surrounding food and energy. Although I was really particularly interested in urban agriculture in that setting. Then as I was here for longer, I got more interested in fruit production and orchard culture, subtropical fruits and exotic fruits especially. There was a pretty large meeting with all of the colleges of agriculture and biological sciences in the Cal State and University of California system earlier this year, I believe in January, where some people from the Hemp Industries Association were trying to convince them to maybe take up this cause. And at that study, or at that meeting, the dean from my college here, Dr. Holzklaus, was one of two representatives from colleges across the state that were interested in trying to do this. The other was a representative from Humboldt State University. So I came in maybe 4 months later in May, already knowing that there was a expressed interest at the school of potentially doing this, because it's completely new territory. Well, I have two research proposals. One is for grain and the other is for fiber. And each of those proposals calls for testing 8 varieties, and that's not an arbitrary limit. It's just a limit that was chosen because it would be most reasonable for a workload for a single grad student. The 8 varieties will be imported from around the world. Specific preference towards varieties from Australia, Korea, southern Italy, China, because those have the closest photo period to what we have here. I feel like I've gotten a good amount of support here. People have stood up for my project and kind of explained to other staff around here that maybe weren't so familiar with what hemp is. We seem to be more open to pursuing this project here because there's just so much to gain.
Hello, my name is Anna Soper. I am a research scientist and lecturer at Cal Poly Pomona. I have been here going on 2 years. My specialty is in research science. I direct undergraduate research in particular. Right now we're working on citrus, but we're trying to expand into more crops. And I met Tony in one of my graduate research classes. He approached me about this hemp idea, and I thought it was just really terrific. We have all discussed the project, and we're still debating where the hemp project will go, but we are very committed at Cal Poly to helping Tony with his research project.
Because this is just a variety trial, and we're just trying to illustrate differences between different strains of hemp and how they perform in this climate. All of those factors are going to be standardized. So there's going to be standardized amount of water. We're going to try and standardize the soil as much as we can, or account for any variances in soil. Standard nutrients across the board, because really we're just demonstrating the potential of each variety, because this is a crop that hasn't been grown here in 70 or more years. We don't know what is the best performer yet. So that's kind of the baseline we gotta have before we can expand research and look at all of these different facets of the plant and its performance. Yield is always going to be an all-star for farmers and for producers and buyers out there, because it's the easiest thing to quantify. But after that, obviously plant vigor, overall productivity for the fiber varieties is really going to be the amount of biomass and the size, how quickly they can get established, if they go from seedling phase to established phase faster than some of our endemic weeds. That would be a really big plus. The plot sizes we're looking for are going to be 8 feet by 20, and that's modeled after small test plots that I saw in the University of Kentucky. And each trial is going to have 8 varieties, and we're going to have 2 planting dates and 4 repetitions. Each of those is going to take up an area a little more than 3/4 of an acre. As for the location, there are several, isolated back parts of campus here at Cal Poly Pomona, where we think the plots will be inconspicuous and out of the way. And we're looking at when equipment and conditions are available in the later half of April. So anywhere from April 18th until maybe April 25th that week. And then our second planting date is going to be 3 weeks later in mid-May. Because this is an organic trial, I'd like to be preparing the site like 3 months in advance, and that preparation would involve a cover crop to fix in some nitrogen and create some more biomass there to keep down the weeds. It is always our intention at this university to publish our results and our data and get them into a scientific journal, and to help add to the work that our colleagues are doing in Purdue University, and University of Kentucky, University of Hawaii, Middle Tennessee University, elsewhere in the country. The hempcrete application, because this is another way of turning this bulk cellulosic carbon that the hemp plant is so efficient and prolific at making into another type of recalcitrant carbon that won't go back into the atmosphere. Because when you mix this woody cellulose here with hydrated lime, this starts to petrify and turn into a fossil, like limestone. And it's technologies like this that we're really going to need to address the carbon dioxide problem. So it's kind of like a burden of responsibility on us as stewards of this planet to keep the oceans and the climate livable. There have been some published data saying that hemp cropped for fiber cycles a lot of its nitrogen, a lot of nitrogen it uses back into the soil by dropping all of its leaves, because it drops so much leaf material. So even though hemp is technically a heavy feeder and it needs about as much nitrogen as corn, it cycles 70% of that back to the soil when it's cropped for fiber. When it's cropped for grain, that's obviously a different story. The nitrogen you apply leaves in the form of proteins and amino acids and fatty acids in the actual seeds. But as a fiber source and as a biomass source, hemp is definitely low input and sustainable. And we've been hearing all these claims for so many years, and it's not to say that we don't believe them. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't, but it's to say that we want to generate some data to further quantify that and really describe to what extent, and to really tease out some of the factors that would help us with getting even more out of the plant, whether it's tolerance of salinity or lower water use. Hemp is a pretty amazing plant. I mean, you look at this stalk here. This stalk comes from a hemp plant, and when it's cropped for fiber, you can have about 480,000 of these in an acre. Each one of these plants being 15 feet tall. We talk about statistics say biomass production from 6 to 10 tons per acre, and that's a huge amount. And if we can take all this, and this is almost all cellulose, all carbon, and turn it into a really recalcitrant form of carbon like biochar through pyrolysis and put that back in the soil, I think that over a couple of decades and some really large plantings, this can really help us solve our energy problems by producing ethanol as the off gas from that pyrolysis process, and to sequester carbon out of the atmosphere and help reverse ocean acidification and global warming. And it's probably the biggest challenge that our generation has to face.
I could have lived a different life. I could have been somebody else. I used to play music after all. Sometimes I wish I was on stage playing with this famous band, rock and rolling all around the place. But I'm a businessman, I could have lived somebody else. I gotta smile and play the game, but I know that things are wrong, that they can't go for too long. Tomorrow things will turn around, yeah. Tomorrow we will turn around, we'll turn around, we will turn around.